Welcome to Corpse Club, the official podcast of dailydead.com. I'm one of your co-hosts, Jonathan James, and today I'm joined by Scott Drebit and Derek Anderson. We're back. It hasn't been this group of three in quite some time.
The Three Horsemen, right? Is this the official?
No, this isn't.
This licensed Three Horsemen. It's just the unofficial.
This is the unofficial one. It has to be. It has to be not me and.
It's Brian.
And Brian has to be here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you're
but
the
I'm still here as pesticide.
That's right, pesticide.
Your apocalypse on a budget.
Your pesticide. I think I was indigestion. I'm not sure. I'll stick with that. That's fine.
I'm just gonna be me.
Just gonna be me. Pesticide, indigestion, and me.
And Jonathan. Yeah.
And Jonathan.
There you go. But yeah, I'm excited to be back, and we're going to catch up a little bit. We have some fun announcements. We have some movies we've seen. Of course, we've seen some movies, right? Haven't we? Haven't we seen a lot of movies this week?
Tons, like at least 17.
Yeah, there are some dry weeks for me. This is one of them. And and I'm getting excited because by the time you listen to this, Corpse Club listeners, Prey would have been out, but I haven't seen it yet, so I'm excited. So I'm excited for that. But I still haven't gotten to a theater to see Nope because I couldn't see it at the drive-in. I still haven't seen Thor, but
I haven't seen Thor yet.
Yeah, but I have
seen Nope. It's worth the wait.
Yeah, but I did see one movie at the drive-in, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But before we do that, I want to talk about something super exciting. Well, I'm not even going to talk about it. Scott is going to talk about it because Scott had a pretty big announcement between now and the last time we got together. And of course, if you follow him on Twitter and you saw what we were sharing on Daily Dead News, you probably heard about his new upcoming book, but I'll have him tell you all about it.
You crazy guy, you. Okay, I better get used to this. Let's start shilling. Yes, everyone, I have a book coming out in the fall of 2023, a nonfiction horror book entitled A Cut Below, a celebration of B-movie horror, which is a book that is 12 festivals, and each festival is individually themed and houses 5 movies a piece. So I will have 60 pieces in the book covering 12 festivals, ranging from Killer Kids to, well, plenty more to talk about. So I'm super excited. That's going on as we speak, and I hope everyone digs it when it comes out.
Yeah, I am. I mean, obviously it's been great to see, what you've done with drive-in dust-offs. And then when we always had talked about it, we're like, hey, and I think I believe your wife had collected some of your dust-offs and put them in print. And it was, super exciting to see that. And because you're writing and a lot of our team members, or all of our team members, I could say the same thing, but dust-offs is print worthy. And to see you take the jump from online to print, and for people to experience it in a different format, a different way, and you turn people on to movies they may not have heard otherwise. I think that's always great. So I'm super happy for you.
Well, thanks, man. That means a lot from you guys. It really does. It's been, like you said, it's been an incredible, fun journey for us to get here, and we've talked about it pretty much from the start, how fun it would be to someday come out with a book, and here we are. And I should also, what I'm really excited about too, is that it's not just dust offs transposed into a book, so you're getting the same material from online. What you're getting is a lot of revisions and brand new essays. Basically a third of the book is completely new writing, and the rest is going to be all updated and revised and expanded, as it were. So I'm really excited about that. It's coming together quite nicely, and I'm super excited.
I'm excited too, because now I know like what to get people around the holidays. Like I already have, I'm gonna have something on my list that I can already be like, that's gonna be, on in my shopping spree. So, and it's just it's like I've always thought that would be like great, like something you could just see on a horror fan's coffee table, just especially underappreciated movies. Like there's, a lot of movies that are in, rightly celebrated and everything over and over. But this is so cool that just, from reading your dust stops that you're going to be like introducing horror fans to movies that they probably aren't aware of, or maybe they had heard of, but didn't know as much about. And they can like, from this book, create their own movie marathons at home and then just unlock the door to all sorts of cinema out there. So,
well, I mean, and that's one of our, that's one of our greatest thrills, right? As horror fans, is introducing other people to stuff they hadn't even heard of, maybe, or hadn't seen, and they needed a little nudge, in a direction, someone to give them that little extra push to check it out. And I think what the big message of the book is saying is that, as imperfect as all of these movies are, there's always perfection in imperfection, and when you group it together, it stands out even more. And the festivals that I've chosen, I hope, are just really fun. And don't take this too seriously. This isn't I wouldn't consider myself an academic, but I am a eager enthusiast, I would say. But that's how I feel. And so rock and roll, ready to go.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I really love about, your writing and why I'm excited to read the book is that even if you've seen these movies, because I think it's great because you can turn people onto these movies who haven't, but even if you've seen it through your writing, like you're able to, give someone a different point of view or bring up something that may allow someone to see a movie in a different light. And so I always do think it's fun with that as well, where, somebody be like, hey, I haven't seen this movie in like 20 years. Like Scott's raving about it. Let me read his piece and let me rewatch it.
If I'm going to bat for a movie, I'll try to make some salient points, just so they don't throw the permanent, dunce cap on me and drag me away, spitting all over myself eventually someday. So yeah, in each piece, I'll try to make some interesting points that maybe someone hasn't noticed that work in favor of the movie, that maybe they had worked against it before. And like you said, it's great either way. It's great if it brings new people to all these movies, and it would be wonderful if people who love these movies also love the love that I have for these movies as well.
Yeah, so we will be we'll keep our listeners posted. I know you will, and then I will. We'll definitely be letting people know more as we get closer to release, and then when you release it. And and I think the interesting thing is that and what's been really cool for me to see is just, different Daily Dead, team members kind of expand out, have different projects and different things going on. I mean, Heather has a second volume for her makeup effects book. She's been teasing that. So if you're following her on Twitter, you already see it. If not, you should. And she's been teasing some of the guests that are going to be in volume 2 of her multi-volume book series. And if you don't have the first volume, that's worth it too. And that's, and it's horror is so, such a broad topic, and maybe, the average person may not think of that or think of it that way. I know for a lot of our listeners, how deep, you can get into discussion about something, and to see Heather just, be able to have multiple volumes that just dive specifically into makeup effects and honor it is also something really special.
Amazing.
So, yeah,
absolutely amazing.
Yeah. So there'll be some some more news on that. There are some other announcements from other things and other people that may be coming up. So we'll be highlighting some of that. And I will. I don't like promoting myself, but I will promote my partner in crime for the comic book challenge, the Platforms comic challenge that I was talking about last episode. So last episode, I had mentioned that myself and Oliver Levang, who is a super talented artist that had worked on Lazaretto with Clay McLeod Chapman over at Boom Studios, and he has his own web comics as well. We had entered this competition early or middle of July, and it's you can enter as one person, you can enter as a team of people, but the goal is you are given a prompt when the competition starts, and you have to create up to an 8-page comic book using the same prompt that everybody gets. In this case, everybody used the dialogue, "Let it burn," but everybody had a different theme. Some people had, and they didn't know what the theme was going to be ahead of time. So some people had Cold War spy thriller. Some people had like an AI gone wrong. Some people had, there was one with a pharaoh. And so you get these different themes. So as I had mentioned last time, I had been joking since Oliver and I knew we were going to do this about that. Like I was going to get Barbershop Quartet. I'm like, I'm going to have to, it's going to be something that's not horror. And I know last year too, someone just was given horror, and I'm like, I'm not going to get that. I'm going to get the worst one. And so, it was a Tuesday. And so Tuesday morning comes around, I'm waiting on my email. The email comes in, and it is like, your phrase is "Let it burn," which everybody has, as I mentioned, but your theme is secret drag racing club. And I'm just like, oh, damn. Oh, damn. But we figured out a way to do it. We figured out a way to make it completely horror. It's a little retro. It's a lot of fun. It's called Hellraiser. And anyway, so we had a week to do it. That included me writing the script. Oliver and I worked together on the story. I provide some feedback on some of the art and the panels he'd show me or the artwork. But honestly, like he's doing all the heavy lifting there. It's incredible to see what he can do. Penciling, ink, and coloring. Setting up the angles and the positions in each panel, the different actions, and then lettering as well. So we got it done. We submitted it along with quite a few other teams, and they just announced finalists and winners, and we were among the finalists. So I think it was like 13 comics were chosen, and they just released the anthology, and they do this as a yearly thing. So go to Platform Comics, and you can read the anthology with the 8-page Hellraiser. See, I say Hellraiser, but Hellraiser comic book, and let us know what you think. We may be doing something else with it in the future. We've gotten some good feedback.
Awesome, man! Congrats.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah, that is amazing. I love the concept too, like how you're kind of forced to come up with something that as I mentioned last episode, that you might never have done before. And then you might unlock a whole nother realm of creativity or storytelling that you just kind of, as a creative, person, that just keeps you fresh as far as just kind of, forcing yourself to do something outside of your sandbox a little bit.
Yeah, there was no way, like, we're like, Oliver and I are not car guys. Like, I drive a car. It's like we didn't, it was like, we were the wrong people for that originally, but I'm like, so how are we going to do this? That would have been
me too. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, how are we going to do this? And then I thought about it, and the more I thought about it, and it really did, like, I'm like, actually, I know quite a bit about cars. Like, I'm not a mechanic, but I do love cars. I do know old cars. I know, old movies. And you know what actually was the inspiration for this was Psychomania.
Oh my gosh.
Or Death Wheelers.
Awesome.
It started with that. I'm like, okay. Wow. I'm like, we can do something. If like, are the people who are driving, are they dying? Like, what's happening there? And that was like the impetus to figure out what this turned into, which is not really close to it, but like it was trying to
race
figure out
to hell.
Well, you're gonna have to. It's 8 pages, so you have to read it when you get off the podcast.
Like it's a challenge for me. Scott,
you're really gonna have to sit down for this one.
It's 8 pages.
You can do it, big fella. You can do it
if you dare.
So,
I was also
Oh, you go ahead.
I thought immediately too when I heard your theme, I thought of like the movie The Wraith, as like a car, the or Christine, of course.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
or even
Yeah.
like Speed Racer. I mean, there's so much, really cool stuff you could do with it. And then, you being like really into video games too. I mean, I'm sure like all the like just from the years of like the game consoles over the generations, like there's so many great racing games that I'm sure that you played, and it kind of like, even if you aren't like a really big car person in like real life, you might actually have like more familiarity just from like racing games and stuff like that. Or it's interesting how that can kind of like, you can kind of draw on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you're totally right, because we were, as I was using for references and just kind of thinking about things, like I had seen The Car recently, so I kind of gravitated towards that.
Oh,
there's an homage from that. So if you see a car that kind of looks like the car but isn't the car, there's something there. And then I brought up Christine. I was about like Tron, and just thinking about like where are these movies where you have to race. But anyway, so yeah, so my first I've been working on a few comic things behind the scenes. I never in my wildest dreams thought the first published one would be a hell racing comic book, but I'm super proud of it. So it's like I don't have a problem with that. I'm like super happy with it. Feedback on it's been good, and I'm really proud of what Oliver's done with it. So anyway, it's free at Platform Comics, so check it out. We'll probably release it as a standalone. I think we're just gonna release it around Halloween for anyone who just we'll share it over on Daily Dead, and who knows, if people like it, there's some more we can do with it. So we may pitch it around or expand it and just release it.
Nice.
And then make an Astron 6 movie.
There you go. Yeah, it definitely could fit in that world. So we have, like I said, so we have some cool things going on. We've also seen we've seen movies, a few of them. We haven't seen many, but we have. It's because we're working on all this stuff behind the scenes. That's what it is. I could go see a movie because I was finishing a comic book, but let's see where we want to go. We'll go with Derek, because Derek, interestingly, the movie you're going to talk about, I haven't seen. So our listeners won't have to hear me for a little bit as you and Scott talk about it.
Wow. You can't say that about too many films where it is that's the case. But yes, this one I actually watched, very inspired by Scott, because you wrote about it in Drive-In Dust-Offs years ago, and that is Jeff Lieberman's Blue Sunshine, 1978. Yeah. And I just remember like the image that we had for that article was so like striking, with for those unfamiliar with the movie, basically these people that seemingly don't have any connection, that just kind of randomly seem to be like losing all of their hair, and then turning into like psychotic maniacs and trying to kill people around them. So it's almost like they become like this almost like 28 Days Later type killing machine after losing their hair. And this guy who is kind of wrongfully accused of murder because he survived one of these encounters with one of these people. He has to try and figure out what the link is between all these people who are losing their hair and then turning into murderers. And it is streaming on Shudder. That's kind of another reason that I watched it, is it's one of the newly added movies on Shudder at the time of this recording. And it was a blast. It was, I didn't really know what to expect, but I don't think I could have, no matter how hard I tried.
That's so Lieberman.
Lieberman. And Lieberman, it's he's got a very interesting filmography, and I really appreciated how this movie, like, it's kind of it's almost like a mystery movie, but then like these really like vicious kills happen, like within the first first few scenes of the movie, someone's like getting burned alive, and it's like when these people turn and they like almost become possessed, it's like flipping a switch, and they really went for it with the horror elements. And then it's kind of this really interesting like mystery on top of all the carnage.
Well, it's conspiracy thrillers were huge in the 70s. So it plays like a cross between some political like conspiracy thriller with Gene Hackman or Warren Beatty, mixed with, you know, some like the worst acid trip in history, right? It's as all of his films are. I find I love the humor in them. It's very dry, but it's there, and his movies just come from a slightly different angle, I find, than most mainstream horror directors. He just comes at things from a slightly askew angle. You know, like our main character in this movie here, played by Zalman King, who went on to create the Red Shoe Diaries. He comes on like this manic cross between Sean Penn and Marjorie Gortner. That's, you know, it's quite the performance, and Lieberman just lets him do his thing, and he's the one who's not affected by the blue sunshine acid, because, well, if you haven't seen the film, go find out and watch it. But I really like his films. They're good, quirky fun. Like I just, they're a little different, and I just appreciate that about him.
Yeah, and you know, I was really in the mood for like a 70s movie. I'd been watching a lot of newer movies recently, so I really wanted to go back and watch some 70s horror. And this movie is so perfect for that. It has to be like one of the most 70s movies I've seen in a long time. You know, because
you even get the disco in the shopping mall, right? I mean, that's
right.
Like
yeah.
It's like, here comes the 80s, folks. The future is shopping malls with discos.
You got it. I just love that. I love, yeah, not only is it a shopping mall, it's a discotheque in the shopping mall where they have like a full bar and like a plexiglass like performance studio. And then like just the shade, there's shade carpet everywhere. It's amazing. Just taking you back to that time. I love you know, taking that time trip, and yeah, Zalman King is such a fun, like, kind of unconventional,
it's a weird
leading
performance
character.
it's a weird performance, and I appreciate it, because it's like Lieberman just let him, whatever, that's good, just do it, like, do his thing. He just let him do his thing, and I love that.
Yeah, it's great because it feels like he's already been through some horrific stuff like before the movie even starts, where he's already so intense and like has this haunted look in his eyes, and it just feels like he just like came from another movie, that he just went through a bunch of stuff and we don't know what any of that is. And then he just keeps getting put in the middle of like the worst situations possible for anyone to be put in. And It's just so much, it's like, there's almost a sense of like comedy that even though he's playing it straight, it's like this comedy comes from that. And it really like, it's a great balancing act with the rest of the movie.
Oh yeah, it's played straight, but I mean, it's quite absurd to see these people affected by this acid from 15 years previously, and there are 10 years or whatever it was, 5 or 10, and their hair falls out, and they go nuts. And I just love the man. That's all I got, really.
So yes, this was definitely one I would recommend. Definitely check out the Drive-In Dust Offs article on it that Scott wrote. And I'm gonna go. I think my goal for myself is to continue going down the Lieberman rabbit hole a little bit more and watch some of his other films, because I really liked what
Squirm?
I saw on this one.
Have you seen
Never
Squirm?
Never seen Squirm. So that's
okay. Put that on the list, of course. Just before dawn.
Also never. Yeah. Okay. So. Which I know that one is talked about quite a bit. So I know it's one that, you know, when it comes to slashers, that's always kind of in the conversation as a one with some really good twists in it. So definitely, like I'm going to go now that I've taken the blue sunshine, there's no turning back.
There you go.
That's funny. And I have no excuse not to watch it. It's on Shudder. I have it on, I have the app on my TV. And just go. Move over to it.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. Some good disco you can listen to.
Yeah, I have no problem with disco.
Some fine disco.
Yeah. So, Scott, I
Yeah.
understand that you caught up on X.
I did. And, this was one that, well, I mean, it had a limited release, but with a lot of fanfare when it did come out. And then I just kind of forgot about it. And then I was flicking through channels a week ago or so, and poof, there it was, free to me. So indeed, I did press play, and I would say it's probably easily my favorite Ty West
Oh,
movie.
wow.
Yeah, between that and I'm really, really a big fan of The Sacrament. So this one and The Sacrament, but this one is, it's just the problem I have with some Ty West, and it's a minor problem, is the build up to the excitement is I find sometimes not that interesting, not always, just occasionally. But I found the lead up to the horror elements of this one, I found interesting. I found the characters interesting. Jenna Ortega is having quite a hell of a year with this and Scream. Mia Goth is terrific. It's swamped in that Texas Chainsaw Massacre feel on purpose, of course. And then when the horror does occur in the form that it shows up in, was unexpected. I went in to this movie knowing as little about the antagonists of the piece, as it were. And I'm glad that I did, because it's kind of a refreshing take on, it's not even revenge. There's so much mixed into this movie that I really enjoyed. Like, I really was taken aback by, for instance, the melancholy of the scene outside of the truck, outside of the house, where he goes to help her. He goes to help Pearl, the old wife, standing in the road. And I think Don't Fear the Reaper is playing on at the time, I think. But anyway, it's played in such a way that it's horrific, but it's also, there's a sadness to it, and it's all within the Pearl character. And that's a real fantastic element, I find, for a movie like this. Here we have a senior citizen who isn't given, if M. Night Shyamalan does it, it's the grandparents are hysterical and they're throwing shit around, right? But not Ty West. Ty West Senior is a senior who is confused and lonely, and, as we find out, horny. She's all of these things. She's very complex. And now, as we find out, much to my absolute delight, that there's already a prequel that's been made called Pearl. Because, folks, our little old lady in X is a serial killer. And the events in X was her getting back into action. Now, the movie Pearl is going to tell us how she became the way she is, and her doing some of her handiwork. And it's Mia Goth again, just as she did in the movie, playing a separate character and also playing the old Pearl. Now she gets to play young Pearl in the prequel. And it's just, I thought it was an amazing movie. It's not like a ripoff of Texas Chainsaw Massacre at all. It's just going for that vibe, the very specific vibe to tell this story in. And I think it works beautifully.
Yeah, I mean, I think you summed it up. There's not a whole lot. I mean, I think Derek will usually say ditto. So I stole that from you, Derek. You got to come up with something else.
When I stole it from Swayze, so
there you go. But I really do. I'll often say, and I think it's kind of like what you said, so maybe I am repeating you, but like, even if I don't always like everything that Ty West does, I'm happy that he does it. And so, but I really do like House of the Devil. Innkeepers was solid. Sacrament. It's interesting. I like that. Like the Sacrament was well done, but then it's a movie I don't revisit. I think X is actually, of all his films, maybe one like House of the Devil I've revisited, but I feel like X is something I would see again, especially because I didn't know exactly what to expect going in.
Yeah. There's a lot to revisit with some fresh eye, like with some really fresh eyes.
Yeah.
Like all of it.
And especially after seeing Pearl, I assume.
Right. And the Pearl trailer, I think I saw the Pearl trailer maybe a couple days after I saw the movie. And I was just, I'm like, well, I'm in heaven, because I'm just coming off of this experience with X, and they're telling me, oh, wait, now we got the prequel, and it looks amazing.
And you'd barely have to wait.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And the cool thing too is Mia Goth co-wrote the prequel with Ty West, so it's like this really cool collaboration, kind of expanding that whole character. And it's interesting too, because I think there's plans to do a third film as well, which would be like set after the events of X. So there's a lot going on there. It's like Ty West and Mia Goth are kind of building their own cinematic universe, and it's like, it's such a cool thing that it's all coming out so quickly too, like the same year.
Yeah.
Two movies.
It's got, what it reminds me of, it actually is like the Lucky McKee and the muse that he has, that he's worked with as well for The Woman, and what's the other one that I'm thinking?
Off Season, or no, I'm sorry.
No.
For The Woman, he was working with Pollyanna McIntosh.
That's right, with Pollyanna McIntosh, and that was based on the Ketchum property.
Yes.
Yeah,
correct. And then they did a follow up to that, did they not? No, you know what
Pollyanna.
I'm
Pollyanna, I believe, directed that one as well. The sequel that came out within the last few years, and so that she got to kind of further explore. Yeah, like it's really cool when like something, like you said, it starts with the Jack Ketchum books, and then it it's the movie, and then that other movie spins out of that, and then another movie. So it's really cool when you can tell that they really care about those characters, and they want to just keep nurturing that and see where it goes.
Yeah, and even before that, and I think it was the one that I really wanted to mention, but I got caught up on that one, was Lucky McKee and Angela Bettis, right, with May. And then the follow-up, she directed and he wrote. And now with these collaborations today with Ty West, Mia Goth, it's great to see these partnerships between the creators and the women who are bringing these characters to life, and for them to have Mia Goth co-writing that prequel is just, that's a beautiful thought, right? Because she gets to help shape the direction of that character. I really love these kind of collaborations.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where it's, because no one's just one thing. And so you're not just a writer, you're not just an actor, you're not just a director. So I do like when you have these opportunities that are created to allow people to flex and allow people to try something different.
Yeah, definitely. And I remember me and a couple of friends of mine saw it in theaters, and they played like that, like a little teaser for Pearl, like after the end credits. And it was like, Pearl will return. And it was so cool. And there was only I think there was one other person in the theater with us, and then like the whole staff of the theater was like waiting outside the door to come in and clean the theater. But it was just like, wow, did we just see that? Like, that's so cool and so unexpected. Because I always kind of joke that like every movie should have that, like, you see a Marvel movie and it says like Thor will return, or I feel like every movie should just do that, just to like because why not, so they actually did it and I couldn't believe it. And it was amazing. So
That's funny. Yeah. I didn't get it in my, on VOD.
Oh, okay.
Or I didn't stay till the end credits. That might've been on me.
Right. I might've shut mine off sooner too. Oopsie. That's okay. Like I said, I had a pleasant surprise a couple of days later after watching.
Yeah. Nice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then for me, like I said, I've been bad. I haven't watched hardly any movies. I haven't had time. And then I was going to go to the drive-in and I'm like, oh, we can see Nope, or we can see Thor. But then, and I'm happy about this because I'm very happy that I saw this movie on the big screen. But there was a retro screening on the same day, and some of Christy's friends we haven't seen in a while were going to be there. So we're like, let's do that one. We can always see Nope later, which again, like I said, I'm fine with. We stayed masked. We stayed in our cars. And it was From Dusk Till Dawn. I've seen it on VHS. I've seen it on DVD. I've seen it on Blu-ray. I've seen it on TV on USA or whoever had it, but I've never seen it on the big screen. So that was quite a treat. It is. I mean, I put it in when we did a vampire movie marathon for our Corpse Club episode. That was on mine. That was my last one because I wanted everyone to stay up and then have it turn over to daylight. But it is honestly, it's one of my favorite movies of all time. So yeah, so it was nice to see that one.
Right on. I've never seen that on the big screen. No, videotape was pretty much the only time. I remember seeing it a few times on videotape. But that's it. I don't think I've seen it on Blu-ray. I've seen season 1 of the, I thought, quite excellent TV series that was on about 6, 7, 8 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, the El Rey Network.
Yeah, that one was, I was quite digging that.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Went a few seasons. I think went 3 seasons. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I did my
cool
typical one. I watch one season and then we choose to watch 17 other shows.
That's what happens with me. If I don't have all of the seasons collected, I will float to another show. It happens. But yeah, I mean, I haven't seen this one in a little bit, and I know allegedly they're doing a 4K restoration. So we should be hearing about that soon. I say that because it's not official. It's just on the internet, that's happening, but, it's likely everything's getting a 4K restoration. So, but yeah, it's, I remember when I first saw this movie that I didn't even know it was a vampire movie. And so I know there were some people who it was their first time, Christy, her friend, it was her first time seeing the movie. And she knew there were vampires, but she didn't know how they got there. She didn't know what they looked like. She didn't know what the story was. So I was really happy for her to kind of get that, that half and half movie, the half crime kind of getaway movie. And then, this just, real B movie, joy, taken to 11. And it's you can really see the love that K and B had, or just, how much fun they must have had with it, because it wasn't it needs to be more realistic. It needs to be less gore. We're worried about censors. No, it's do whatever you want, guys. You want a guy to get his head chopped off and then turn into a rat creature? Yeah, sure. And you want the vampires to be, and I'm sure some of this too was in the script, but you want vampires to be squishy, instead of so that you can easily punch their heads off and stake them without spikes. Yeah, sure. You want a band, a mariachi band that just disappears. Yeah. And so, I mean, the movie's so great. I love it.
I really enjoy it when, it gets to the titty twister. I think it really takes flight till then. I find it rough until it gets to the titty twister. It's not my favorite Tarantino stuff. And if Clooney doesn't stop with the bobblehead, the bobblehead really gets to me in this movie more. Is it when
he does the twist? Because he does that one a lot to show that he's a little unhinged.
He does the ball. You look and he's got this bobblehead going in every scene of this movie, just about. at least when they're not at the titty twister yet. So, and yeah, but when it gets there, it's a blast. So I'm not dissing the movie by any stretch. It's just, when you've seen, when you've watched Tarantino a lot, there's like really good Tarantino, and there's got to be a scale, right? They can't all be, Inglourious Bastards. I find the front half a bit clunky, but I love the back half.
And yeah, I'd say that's fair. I was almost dying inside. Scott's smiling over there, so I'm just like, I'm like,
it's
fine.
It's definitely like two movies in one. But yeah, I think having Robert Rodriguez, in the director's chair for this, like he brings it, like when him and Tarantino working together, which we'd see again in the Grindhouse double feature years later. Like it's a magic formula, but I feel like once they get there, that's when things take off. And it's like, that's when they knew, like, okay, this is exactly the movie we want to make. And when they get to the really, the mushy, gory vampire stuff there, and it's just a lot of, it feels like vampires, but in a bar brawl kind of setting where there's nothing romanticized about it. I mean, there's certainly some mystery and they take their time like revealing everything, but once they do, it's just like a full-on bar brawl version of like the vampire story that we were kind of used to before this movie came out. So it's definitely, I think, one that in that way, it's always fun to like watch someone see it for the first time, especially that second half when it's just full-on like the climax just goes for like half the movie essentially.
I think it's crucially important for people to remember at this time that you honestly did not get a lot of movies where, Tom Savini had a cannon for a penis. You just didn't. I'm not sure if it's more prevalent today, but it was a unique experience back then. And I think that still stands today.
Yeah, this is a movie. I mean, honestly, to me, this is almost like a movie that shouldn't exist. This is a movie that, it exists because of the previous success that Tarantino and Rodriguez had. But like, it's just like, this movie has like, it has Tarantino's, like, obviously it's his script. And so it has his dialogue, and we have the crime part in that first half, but like marrying that with Rodriguez's sensibilities is like really where this thing is just like, a lot of the movie doesn't make sense. Like if you really want to try to pick it apart, not that we do that here, not that I recommend doing that with this movie, but again, it's like, it's like the penis gun. It's like, it's the fact that they spoiler warning, they kill Salma Hayek, pretty early on in the movie. It's like it's interesting because this movie also doesn't follow. I mean, there's a lot of ways that this doesn't follow like a traditional narrative structure. So like it would be hard to make this movie today without it going through, severe changes, because people would like, well, you can't kill the vampire queen like shortly after her dance. Like you got to save her to the end. Otherwise, like, what's the point? So it's interesting how many like quote unquote rules that this movie breaks. Like it breaks, writing, structure, character arc rules. It breaks what you might consider like filmmaking rules, or like what you'd consider norms for special effects back then. Like it's a, what do you call it? It's a unicorn. And that's why I love it so much.
It kind of, like, you're right. It kind of feels like a movie, like a fake movie that would be like that characters would be watching in another movie. Like, cause it's so like something you would see on TV, like in a Tarantino movie where it's just so ridiculous and over the top and like non-linear, where they're just like, they're commenting on watching it. It just feels very like in an alternate universe kind of thing, because like you said, it doesn't really play by the rules in any particular way. And it's, in that sense, it's very unexpected and non-conventional. So it's a lot of fun that way. And that's why I think it's so good on repeat viewings, because it's not like really anything else that came out around that time.
Yeah.
It's just like it's hard. You can't really get bored watching it, even if you know or you think you remember how everything goes down. There's always like, oh yeah, that moment and this moment, and like, oh damn, So, and it was really fun. Like Scott mentioned the TV series that they did. Like, it was fun seeing them build on the mythology of this and like play with your expectations and like have certain characters used in different ways. Like I think Jake Busey was like the sex machine character, and like, and how they just kind of intertwined all of that and like really, I don't know, just kind of did stuff with the Gecko brothers and things like that you're kind of like wondering how they would, do stuff with the movie preceding it, but they just kind of played with expectations even more. So it's just a fun sandbox to play in overall.
Yeah, they built a really good world. I should catch up more on the show. I know I saw some of the first season, but that was about it. The other movies I had seen, but I haven't seen them more than once. I mean, I think one of the reasons too this movie really works so well is because you have, such over the top characters. The Gecko brothers are over the top. And I think if you didn't have Harvey Keitel, and his family, you didn't have the performances of Harvey Keitel and Juliette Lewis, like this would be a completely different movie. Like I feel that they ground this movie in a way that does make it believable. Without that, there's very little about this movie that doesn't feel like a comic book in many ways. But then you see those two characters, and that's kind of our way into this world. But it's like, hey, like they kind of feel like real characters that we would see. So like, is this the real world? And I think that their performances and having those characters and those arcs like really grounds the film in an interesting way. Because otherwise we wouldn't care. There's a lot of 80s movies where they're fun to watch, but you don't care about the characters.
And you have Seth trying to kind of reel in, even though they're both like, criminals, like Seth realizes that Richie is much, more intense with his behavior and everything. He's trying to like reel him in. So then you've got that brother relationship, but it's like one of them is this, really kind of deranged murderer, whereas he's more of like, the bank robber type. So it's very like, there's a lot going on there too, that you're kind of like going into, everyone's going into the titty twister with like their own issues before they even get to the vampire stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a fascinating movie that I could continue talking about for a long time, but I see we're losing Scott. It's been great since we've switched over to Zoom because I can watch him. He is laying like a vampire, which will be my last segue is that it's more of a PSA, it's more of an advertisement for because I'm super excited, so I'm gonna shout to the world, and I already posted it to our WhatsApp room, so I know you all know. I know you know. That that Arrow announced a new Count Yorga 2-movie box set. I have Count Yorga on DVD. I have multiple copies of Count Yorga on DVD, both of them. I have Blu-rays. I probably have multiple copies of Blu-rays. I'm buying the new ones. It's got really great artwork. I love what Arrow puts out, and their new 4K restorations, and they got me. It's not on 4K. It's like 4K scanned. And it's in, it's going to be on Blu-ray. It's going to be on 1K. So I'll buy the 4Ks eventually too. You know it. But yeah, it's like, it's a new restoration. I'm like, what am I going to see? What did they clean up? So it's going to be released in October. I was probably the first person to buy it.
we were all very excited for you to hear about that. And I know we all thought of you. I mean, I love Count Yorga too. It's a great movie. So I'm sure it's going to be a fabulous restoration. I mean, discarded porn will never have looked so good.
I know.
Yeah, that's the one that I think you've been waiting for, of all the, that everything's always moving to the next format. That's got to be like your most anticipated. And and actually, I still need to watch Count Yorga. So this maybe should be the one the version that I watch it in.
You should.
Because I do have the DVD of the double.
I gave him one of the feature. Midnight movies. Did you pick it up or did I give it to you? I thought I sent it to you.
I think you sent it to me. That does sound. I mean, it had to have been you. Because
I've sent people Count Yorga movies.
Yeah,
I can attest to this.
Yes.
Well, some of those midnight movies that they're pretty collectible now. Like
some of the
DVDs
some of them are. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll hold on to it along with my Dawn of the Dead DVD, but this would be a good one to add to the collection. I mean, and really see it. Maybe as no one intended people to see it, because it's like going to be so
I don't know.
so like vivid.
I don't know what kind of an upgrade it's going to be. I mean, it's a fine looking film. It's in focus and color, and it's good.
There'll be something new. I'll glean something new from it. What I am waiting for, though, I will continue to say this every time we bring up also Count Yorga, is I want the Death Master on Blu-ray on any format. I mean, I'll take a clean DVD, but
they still release DVDs, believe it or not. I mean,
they do, yeah.
That.
But
They're actually really reasonably priced.
Yeah, and I think this still falls under the MGM library, and I know Kino licenses some stuff from them. We know Arrow does, so like, hey, like it's kind of like a quasi third movie here that I want a better version of it. And it's Robert Quarry, and I've said it before, but it's Robert Quarry, and he's a cult leader. He like shows up and he convinces these hippies to follow him as he turns them into vampires.
The only thing that would make you happier if there was a fourth unreleased Robert Quarry Count Yorga film that was canon but was never released.
If they secretly shot Count Yorga like versus Dr. Phibes, which was planned, like that'd be it. They filmed it, but they never told anyone.
Yeah.
That would
because
be it.
The film is haunted.
Yep. Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah. So no, it's cool to see them releasing that. And we got a bunch of, we kind of had, we're kind of like recycling movies. And I don't mean that in a bad way, because I'll get to the positive point of that, is that like some of the scans you may get, I'm trying to break this down more succinctly. Sometimes like a company like Scream Factory will release a movie and they may get it from another company like Studio Canal. They've already done some restoration. So you can use it as someone else's restoration and release it here. And that's perfectly fine. But now that we have kind of over the years, better scanning technology, better ways to clean up films. And in some cases, they're scanning based on the print they have. Sometimes people don't have a great print, but that's the best they had at the time, and that's what they use for the scan. So what we are seeing is that like even though Scream Factory released Count Yorga on both of them, I'm glad that Arrow didn't just get the rights and re-release that version. They rescanned it, and so we are getting a new restoration. We are seeing Kino and Arrow kind of do that with some of the Vincent Price titles and some other films too.
Nice. Yeah, it's and then you also have stuff like, the Eurocrypt of Christopher Lee, which we talked about on the last episode, good. Where you're seeing it's gotten to that point where everything that came out on Blu-ray is coming out on 4K, but then they're also discovering more films and getting the rights to more films to release sometimes for the first time on Blu-ray. So it's amazing. And like you were talking about with it's more important now than ever, I think, to as popular as digital is, to also get the physical releases, especially if it's something that you really hold near and dear, and it's a little more out there and hard to find, like just to have in your own personal collection. I mean, even just for just to have it for a rainy day or to stock up on stuff. I mean, there's you can kind of really curate some amazing physical collections, even though you can watch so much on streaming these days.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because we were talking about this a little bit before we recorded. So I'll give a little more context, but we were talking about the fact that with some of the HBO Max news, and they're removing some of their originals from their service. So, for people that are, and I love digital, but you don't own the license to those movies, even when you pay for them. You don't own them entirely. Like sometimes Amazon will remove a title from their library and they'll notify you, but you no longer have it if you bought it. The same thing happens with music. So I think there's really still, I think digital is or physical is as important as ever. And if you really like a film and you're like, hey, like, well, it's on digital. I mean, there is some sense in saying, hey, it might not always be on digital. And I can give you an example of that actually is Deathmaster, the movie I'm talking about. So there is an old like Gorgon video DVD it's not super expensive. It's expensive enough that I haven't bought it, and I've been waiting for a Blu-ray. But I had always watched it on Amazon Prime. They had a really low quality version of it, and I watched it for years, and then all of a sudden it's gone. So like like I said, I can buy the DVD, but I can't watch it on digital. So I do think from time to time, if there's something you love and you're not sure if it's going to be there anymore, like pick up a copy.
If you can.
If you can.
That's the other problem is a lot of these companies too are not given the option to, I mean, the creators want the public to be able to buy it if they can't necessarily, see it online or digital. The creators like the idea of their creation having a life, outside, having a more personal connection, I should say, with the viewer, which I think when you have home releases, that's a little bit of the feeling I get anyway. That may sound like sappy or corny or even creepy to someone, but I really don't care. It's just the way I feel. But I'm the same way. I like a combination of, ideally a combination of streaming and physical release. And like you said, if you have the ability to purchase something for physical because you want to see it around and make sure it doesn't disappear and hold it in your hands, then you have to also accept some physical in your life too. Accept some physical, baby. That sounded horrible.
No, I think that was a perfect way to end this to end this episode. I'm gonna assume that physical is a hug from you, Scott, when we see each other, because it's been way too long.
Absolutely, yes, and I also meant physical media, but yes, a hug as well.
Yeah, I haven't seen you in ages. Derek, I've seen you recently. So you
you're like, you can wait another 4 years.
Yeah, you can wait a little bit more. But Scott, I haven't seen you in ages, but hopefully we fix that soon.
You know it.
Yeah. But it's been great catching up with you. And and our episode has come to an end. We want to thank Brian, our engineer, helping us out each and every episode. So thank you, Brian. And as always, we want to thank our listeners. Without you, we would not be recording here. So thank you to our listeners, those who have reviewed us on iTunes and YouTube and Spotify. That always really helps. And for those of you who have signed up for a Corpse Club membership, that really helps as well. If you want to join our Corpse Club, you can go to corpseclub.com where you can learn more. We have Corpse Club t-shirts. We have Corpse Club pins. You can pick an episode topic. Like I said, head to corpseclub.com to learn more. If you want to get in touch, you can reach out anytime. We are at contact@corpseclub.com. On Twitter, we're at Daily Dead News. We're at Corpse Club. And on Instagram and Facebook, we're under Corpse Club as well. Thanks again for listening. And until next time, stay scary.